Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Madeira Beach Code Enforcement hearing. My name is Bart Valdez, and I'm the appointed special magistrate to hear today's cases. I'm a practicing attorney and have been a member of the Florida Bar for over 20 years. I've been appointed to this position in accordance and with the authority set forth in Chapter 162 Florida statutes. It is my role to fairly and objectively review the matters presented. As such, I would like to advise you of certain matters related to today's proceedings. Today's matters will be heard in the order that they appear on the agenda. Every effort will be made to hear all persons having relevant evidence, argument, or comments to offer related to the specific case that is being heard. If you wish to speak today, then it is necessary that you be sworn in by the city attorney in just a few moments. In all cases, since the city has the burden of proof, the city will present its case first. The respondent or property owner then will be given the opportunity to refute the city's allegations. Formal rules of evidence do not apply to this proceeding. However, I will exert every effort to ensure that fundamental fairness is afforded to all parties. After hearing all relevant evidence, I will issue an order. The order will be reduced to writing, and you will be provided with a copy by mail. Therefore, please make sure that we have your current address. Additionally, you are advised that I do not have the authority to grant you a variance, permit, or special exception of any kind. My role is solely to determine whether a city code has been violated and to provide you a reasonable time to correct the violation by whatever means is available to you. Please be advised that you may be subject to a fine and a lien may be recorded on your property if the violation is not corrected by the compliance deadline. If you wish to present any information to me or speak to me in any way, then it is necessary that you swear or affirm that you will tell the truth. Therefore, at this time, I ask that the city attorney swear in any witnesses.
So anyone that's going to speak, if you could stand up, raise your right hand, and be sworn under oath. Swear the testimony you're about to give today is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, the first case we have on the agenda today is case number 2020.1266 for the property located at 545 150th Avenue. Is the city ready to proceed?
Yes, we are.
Go ahead, Mr. Trask.
And Mr. Pruitt is here, by the way, just so that you know, he is the property owner.
All right. And Mr. Pruitt, I'm going to give you a chance to come up in just a few minutes. You can either stand there while the city does its presentation, or you can have a seat, and then I'll call you up in just a second.
Thank you. So I'm going to have two witnesses today. The first witness is going to be Holden Pinkard, and the second witness is going to be Raul Perez from the fire department. First, I want to call Mr. Pinkard. Holden, what are your job responsibilities here at the City of Madeira Beach?
I issue building code violations for the city.
And how long have you been in that position?
6 years.
Okay. Are you familiar with this first case on the agenda, which is case 2020-1266 for 545 150th Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. And were you involved in issuance of code violation notices in this, against this particular property?
Yes.
Who's the owner of the property, and how do you know that?
Dean and Maria Pruitt by way of the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's Office and the tax collector.
Okay. If you could take a look at pages 3 through 6 of the agenda package and confirm that that is the printout from the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's Office reflecting the Pruitts own the property.
Yes.
Okay. Did you also have the printout from the tax collector as well as showing who the owner of the property is?
Yes.
And what did that reveal?
The property owner information being Dean and Maria Pruitt.
Okay. And is that reflected on page 7 of the packet?
Yes.
And also page 8, it looks like it followed over. Is that correct?
Correct.
So when did you first become involved in this case and the filing of notices of violation?
Back in September of 2020.
Okay. And how did this property come to your attention?
During a final inspection of the dock, there was a conditional pass based on that the length of the dock was in question and whether or not it needed a certain fire department connection.
Okay. Did you go out to the property to determine whether or not there was a fire department connection pursuant to the code, or did you rely upon the fire department to do that?
That was directed to the fire department.
Okay. I want to skip over a couple of pages in the packet, and I want to first go to the permitting process. That is also in the packet. If you could start at page 15 and go through, starting at page 15, and tell us what these documents are.
Sure. The page 15 is the cover sheet for the permit, giving the address and the scope of work. And 16 is the front page of the application with the property owner's information and the contractor. And 17 is the scope of work to remove and haul away the existing 190-foot by 6-foot floating dock and to build a new one. And page 18 is the owner's signature. 19 is the subcontractor list, and then 20 is the signature of the owner and the contractor. And 21 being the notice of commencement.
Okay, so these documents were approximately April 2019, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then if you could continue on, starting at page 22.
I believe that is the second page of the recorded notice of commencement.
Okay,
And 23 is the permit from Pinellas County Water Navigation. And that was issued on August of 2019. 24 is the application for the Pinellas County permit. And 25 is the nature and size of the project and the legal owner's signature. And 26 is the city approval and the county approval. And that shows the length of the dock. And 27, I don't see any information on there that was filled in.
okay, and if you can continue on then, on to page 28, what is that document?
That is a permit extension affidavit, and that was completed because there was no final inspection called out. And then when we did the final inspection on October 8th of 2020, there was conditional pass based on the length.
Can you explain what you mean by conditional pass?
The conditions were that there was concerns about the length of the dock and that the fire department would need to follow up with that requirement.
Okay. And is that reflective of the inspection field sheet on page 29 in the packet?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I want to go back then to the front of the packet, and I want to specifically have you look at the notices that were sent in 2020. You had mentioned that the case started in September of 2020. That was following the permit and the work being completed other than the fire department work, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And can you look at page 9 of 47 and explain what this notice of code violation is for?
So this is a notice of code violation specifically for in violation of section 14-31, and that's the technical codes adopted, specifically the fire codes, and the installation, location, and protection of piping.
Okay, so the property owner was cited for failing to comply with the National Fire Protection Association section 13.4.1 and 13.4.2.3.6, according to that notice, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so was this notice mailed?
Yes.
And who was it mailed to?
Dean and Maria Pruitt at 1336 Bayview Drive, Clearwater, Florida.
Okay. And did this give a date that the property owner was requested to bring the property into compliance?
October 5th of 2020?
Did they bring it into compliance by that date?
No.
Okay. So there was another code violation notice issued, and that's on page 11 of 47 in the packet, is that correct?
Correct.
Is this the exact same notice as the other one? It just give them another month's worth of time to get it done?
Right.
And the follow-up date was what date then that they needed to complete the work?
November 4th of 2020?
Okay, so now almost 2 years has passed, correct?
Correct.
And now we're back before the special magistrate. So if you could briefly tell the special magistrate, why it took 2 years to bring this back to the special magistrate, even though the notice was issued 2 years ago?
We were working with the property owner, and I know the fire department has been trying to work with the property owner as well. And we wanted to get it done under the permitted work that was done, maybe with a revision, and that never got done.
Okay. So did you issue another notice of violation or a statement of violation request for hearing?
Yes,
Could you turn to page 32 of the packet and tell me whether or not that's the request that you had actually filed?
yes,
And is that the same 2 code sections that were referred to in the previous code violation notice 2 years earlier?
yes,
All right. And did you also issue a notice of hearing for today to the property owners at the same address?
yes,
And is that reflected in pages 34 through 36?
yes.
All right. And can you tell me how you actually provided notice of the hearing and notice of the code violation to Mr. and Mrs. Pruitt this month in June?
Sure. So we mailed a regular letter, a certified letter, and posted the property.
Okay. And when did you do that?
That was June 17th of 2022.
All right. And does the last page in the packet, or actually page 38 of the packet, does that reflect a photograph of the property being posted?
Yes,
Okay. Have you got the green cards back on these notices that you had sent yet?
not yet.
Okay. But Mr. Pruitt is here in the audience. You recognize him, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So as of today, the permit has not been finalized because it's waiting for the fire piping work to be done, correct?
correct.
Okay. All right, I tender into evidence at this time documents 3 of 47 through 38 of 47, and I don't have any additional comments or questions for Mr. Pinkert. I do have another witness, though.
All right, thank you, Mr. Trask. Mr. Pinker, just a question for you before I allow Mr. Pruitt to come up and ask you some questions. I noted in the prior violations that the corrective action was to provide a plan of corrections. What is the corrective action the city is seeking at this point? And you can defer to Mr. Perez if you want, but do you have the corrective action that the city would be seeking?
They just comply with that city ordinance.
Okay, so it's the actual, would it be the installation of piping or something like that? So it's not just a plan of corrections, the city would ask for something to actually be done on the property to allow the connection. All right, Mr. Perez, I'm going to ask you that same question in a couple minutes, so if you can be thinking about that with specificity if we get to that point. So, all right, thank you. All right, Mr. Pruitt, come on forward. Mr. Pruitt, I don't know if you've ever been before me or not, but this is the opportunity you have to cross-examine or ask questions of Mr. Pinkert. In a few moments, I'm going to call you back up here and give you the full opportunity to present to me any evidence you want, including you can make your own statement, you can tell me anything, you can show me pictures, you can call witnesses, whatever you want to do. But for this portion of the hearing, this is your opportunity to cross-examine or ask Mr. Pinkert questions, just like what I did and just like what Mr. Trask did. So do you have any questions for Mr. Pinkert?
No, not really.
All right, then just sit tight. Mr. Trask is going to call another witness. You'll have your opportunity to cross-examine him, and then I'll call you back up. All right, Mr. Trask, you want to call your next witness?
Yes, I'm going to call Mr. Perez. Sir, could you state your full name for the record?
My name is Raul Perez.
And what is your occupation here at the City of Madeira Beach?
I'm the fire inspector.
Okay, and how long have you held that position?
It's going on 3 years now.
Okay, and as part of your job as being a fire inspector, are you responsible for reviewing dock work that is done within the city to determine whether or not that it's a requirement to meet any type of National Fire Protection Association requirements?
Yes,
Okay. Did you have the opportunity to review the permitting application and approvals on this particular property, which is located at 545 150th Avenue here in Madeira Beach?
yes, I have.
Okay. And when was your first involvement on this property?
Approximately 2 years ago.
Okay, and in fact, it was you who actually had signed these letters that have been received into evidence. And I want to refer you to page 9 of 47, 9 and 10 of 47, and also 11 and 12 of 47. You were involved with that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So these two particular documents reflect a requirement that the National Fire Protection Association code has not been complied with. Can you explain what has not been complied with and what is required to obtain compliance?
Yeah, so the dock is longer than what they have permitted for. It's approximately 260 feet, if I'm correct. I just measured it again, just to make sure. And so our NFPA standards require that anything that's longer than 150 feet, that means a hose stretching from the fire engine to the end point of the pier, would require an FDC connection, which is a fire department connection.
Okay, when you talk about a fire department connection then, so we're talking about a pipe that needs to be installed on the dock, the length of the dock to get to the end of the dock, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so, in this particular property, having this need, did you discuss that with Mr. Pruitt and the fact that he needed to do that before the permit can be finalized out?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and how many times do you think that you've talked to Mr. Pruitt about this particular issue?
Probably about 5 times.
Okay, and the most recent time was when?
I believe last Friday, last Thursday,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Did you go over with him what he needs to do to bring the property into compliance then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the, even though it's not in the packet, I had handed out to the special magistrate and to Mr. Pruitt copies of these code sections. Could you explain then the two code sections, if you take a look at them, what do they actually mean? The first one being 13.4.1.1.
The piping shall be permitted to be installed above or below the piers, docks, and/or similar structures. And NFPA 13.4.2.3.6. Fire department connection shall be located no more than 100 feet from the nearest fire hydrant or an approved water source.
Okay, so where is the closest water source to the dock that was built on the Pruitt property?
It's a fire hydrant just outside of his property.
So if it's just outside of his property, about how long is it from that fire hydrant to the end of the dock that was built?
It's about 323 feet.
Okay. Now, this National Fire Protection Association code was adopted by Madeira Beach through its code section 14-31, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. How much time do you think it would take to get the property into compliance, or how much time do you think would be a reasonable amount of time to give Mr. Pruitt to bring the property into compliance?
I say about 2 months.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to explain to the special magistrate? Maybe I haven't artfully asked you or you explained. Is there anything additional you think that the special magistrate should know about the importance of these two code sections being complied with?
Yeah, these codes are in place just because so many boats are docked there. And we're thinking about fuel system, boat fires, anything like that, that can either, because the boats are so close to each other that we're worried about that if one boat catches on fire, the next boat will, and so on and so forth. It's like a domino effect. If we don't have a fire department connection close enough so that our firefighters can connect without trying to extend a line over 300 feet, we can do the fire attack a little bit quicker.
Okay. So you can put out the fire a little bit quicker is the bottom line.
Quicker,
Right.
so it doesn't spread.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I don't have any other questions for Mr. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. I think I understand. So if there was a fire today out there, the difficulty would be you'd have to connect to the fire hydrant that's off the property, and that's 300 and something feet away from the end of the dock. So if the last boat on the dock caught fire, it'd be a safety issue, a health and safety issue to get a fire hose all the way out there. Is that the
It
issue?
would. It would just take a lot longer because we have to connect a fire hose to the hydrant, to the truck, from the truck to the end of the dock.
So I think I've seen these on docks before. Is it something that like, it comes out of a metal standpipe and it's got a big valve on it and then has what looks like a fire hydrant connection on it? Is that what?
Yes, sir.
Is that the FDC connection?
Yes, sir. It's a 5-inch connection. And what we would do is just connect that to our fire truck, and we'll basically control the fire or the water flow from our truck to the end of the dock.
So if I was to put in my order the corrective action that would meet the code and bring this property into compliance, it would be to install an FDC connection. What's the second half of that? How would I word the second half of that?
FDC connection, Class 1 standpipe. It would have to have a signage on there facing the street. And fire hose connections every 150 feet.
Okay, so it would be an FDC connection with a Class 1 standpipe within, what, 150 feet of the end of the dock?
So from the actual connection itself, the main connection, every 150 feet, we would have to have a hose connection.
So how many FDC connections would this property need in this configuration? Is it just one?
Just one FDC and 2 hose connections.
All righty. Okay, Mr. Pruitt, you can come forward. Just as you had the opportunity with Mr. Pinkard, this is your opportunity to ask Mr. Perez some questions about what he testified to. Again, I'm going to give you in just a minute, an opportunity to tell me anything you want, but do you have any specific questions you'd like to ask Mr. Perez?
No, I'm going to try to get in compliance within, I got an invoice here to get it done, so.
Okay, and you understood what
Thank you.
Mr. Perez was saying is what you would need to do to
Yes,
be
yes,
in
I've been
compliance?
talking to him about it.
All right, Mr. Perez, have you seen the invoice that he provided?
I have not, no.
All right, I just want to make sure that whatever he has, why don't we take
I can give him a copy.
Yeah, why don't we take just a 2-minute break? You can show that to Mr. Perez with Mr. Trask looking at it, because at some point I want them to see this before the end of the hearing. So let's just take a 2-minute break for you guys to look at that. And Mr. Perez, the question I'm going to have is if you can tell from his invoice whether the work he's planning on doing would meet the corrective action that would be required to bring him into code. So we'll be in recess for just about 2 minutes until or however long you need to do your review. All right, we are back on the record. And Mr. Perez, I'm going to give you a chance to come up. Mr. Perez, have you had a chance to look at the invoice for the work that the owner respondent intends to do?
Yes.
Does it appear if he does that work, it'll meet the corrective action that's required to bring the property into compliance?
Everything's great except for 2 things.
Okay, what are the 2 things?
He's going to need a 5-inch storage connection and a 30-degree elbow at the main connection. Other than that, everything else looks good.
All right, thank you. All right, do you have any questions for Mr. Perez based upon what he
No,
just
not
said?
really.
Mr. Trask, do you have any follow-up based upon what?
No,
Those
thank you.
questions? Okay. All right, Mr. Pruitt, this is your opportunity to tell me anything you want to tell me in regard to the violation, anything, you plan on doing anything like that?
I'm going to get it up to code. Got to give me a little time to do this, but I don't know how quick they get it done, but as soon as possible.
All right. Is this a copy I can have, sir, or is this your only copy?
I think that's the only copy I've
Okay, then
got.
I'm not going to take it from you. I just would like to look at it for a
I
moment.
have it on my email.
I'm going to give it back to you, sir. That's fine. All right, so it looks like you have already gotten a quote. Do you know when your contractor can start to do this work?
Not really, he hasn't told me, but I'm sure pretty quick, I guess.
All right, you heard the city said they'd like it to be brought into compliance within 60 days. You think your contractor can do this work within 60
I'm
days?
gonna try, you know, I mean, I don't know if he can get it done, but if he can, I'll just have to talk to this guy again, I guess.
All right, so I think you understand the reason why, you understand your property's not in compliance now, and the reason why
Yes,
it's not in
yes,
compliance?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Trask, I hope I didn't steal your thunder, but any questions for
No, sir.
this witness?
I think he's admitted the property is in violation. He wants to get it into compliance. I talked to him before the hearing today, and he thinks that the 60 days would be a reasonable period of time to do that. And I've talked to Mr. Perez, and he thinks that that's a reasonable period of time as well.
All right, that sounds fine. Sir, anything else you want to tell me?
That's about all, I guess.
All right, let me give this back to you if you want to come up here and get it. Or is there anything else, Mr. Pruitt, you'd like to tell me, show me, or anything else like that? All right. The record reflect Mr. Pruitt said no.
Are you sure? Right, just turn that in with your paperwork. Just turn it in with your paperwork.
All right, Mr. Pruitt, have a seat. All right, at this point in the hearing, if there are any members of the public that want to provide public comment specifically relating to this particular violation, now is the time. So any member of the public want to come forward? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Mr. Trask, would you like to make a closing?
Quickly summarize, the property owners, Mr. and Mrs. Pruitt, own this property. They've been in violation of these two code sections, have been cited for a couple of years since they built their new dock. This is a life safety issue. Mr. Pruitt has admitted the violations. Mr. Perez has said how important it is to get this completed. We're asking that you give the property owner the 60 days to come into compliance. That would put us at about August 27th. And should he fail to bring the property into compliance by that period of time, we would request that you enter a fine of $100 per day for every day that the property remains to be not in compliance. And I just want to make sure that we've got the documents received into evidence, page 3 of 47 through 38 of 47. And I'd also ask that you take judicial notice of section 14-31 of the code and the two NFPA code sections under 13.4.1 and 13.4.2. I know there were some subparagraphs there, but asking that you take judicial notice of those as well.
All right, I will go ahead and accept into evidence as exhibit number 1, pages 3 through 38 of the agenda packet. Also, I will take judicial notice of the two sections. I'll also attach them as exhibit 2 and exhibit 3, so they're all part of the record. Based upon the evidence presented to me, I do find the property is in violation, especially based on the owner's admission. It sounds like the owner has a corrective action plan that will bring this property into compliance. I do find that the reasonable time to bring the property into compliance is 60 days, and based upon the health, safety, and welfare issues, that there should be a fine of $100 a day thereafter. Sir, if for whatever reason we get near the 60 days and there's an issue, I'd ask you to reach out to the city. I think you'll find they'll be reasonable to work with you. But obviously, the idea is they want to make sure that there's not a massive fire out there that can't be put together or put out. Mr. Trask, because I want to make sure the corrective action is technically correct, I'm going to ask you to draft the proposed order on this one, just because if you can run the corrective action by Mr. Pinkert and Mr. Perez to make sure it's consistent with what was stated on the record and is technically accurate. I don't want to put something in my order that is not technically accurate and requires some compliance that is beyond what the fire regulations require.
All right, I'll be happy to do that. Thank you.
All right. Okay, that is it for case number 2020.1266. Mr. Pruitt, you can stick around and you're free to leave at this point, so that'll be all in your case. All right, the next case is Old Business 2021.3355-14230 Gulf Boulevard. And the reason that this case is brought back before me, the respondent Shoreline Island Resort LLC, I'd initially given a, entered an order of continuance in this one. And then I believe I went ahead and entered a second order, and I got a call to my office got an email, excuse me, from Mr. Mata, and since I'm not permitted to communicate with anyone outside of this hearing, I sent that email, or have my paralegal send that email to Mr. Trask directly and asked that it be placed upon the next agenda so we'd avoid any ex parte communication. So, Mr. Trask, I'll turn it over to you as to the next steps on this one.
Thank you. So there was an order entered. It was ordered on February 24th of this year. It gave a compliance date of April 29th, 2022. The property owner is asking for additional time to get compliance. I will tell you that the property owner's representative has been working diligently to get the property into compliance, and every step of the way has copied city staff as to what's happening and when it's happening. But unfortunately, there are some agencies that are not moving as quickly as they would like or we would like. And so we have no objection for an extended compliance date. Move it out 3 months. That would put it to July 29th, since the original compliance date was April 29th. I did talk to the representative that's here in the audience tonight, and he believes that that would be a good date. He's hoping to have it completed by that time. So the city has no objection to extending the compliance date till July 29th, if that's acceptable to you.
Sir, you want to come forward? Mr. Mata, right? All right. And again, sir, I appreciate you wanting to reach out to my office. Unfortunately, I can't communicate with you directly outside of the presence of the city's representative.
I was just doing my best to communicate
I appreciate
effectively
that.
as I could.
I appreciate that. All right, sir, do you understand what Mr. Trask just said? That what I would do is I would enter an order modifying the compliance date to extend it to July 29th, 2022. Does that work for
Yes.
you?
Yep.
All right, in that case, I'll go ahead and do that. If, for whatever reason, you get to another point in time and you feel like you need more time, instead of reaching out to me, if you can contact Mr. Trask directly, and then he can determine whether or not that's something that needs to come back before me.
Okay.
And so I would say just reach out to Mr. Trask, or would you like him to reach out to staff and then, or,
It's fine. I gave him my business card before the meeting, and so I'd be happy to receive those calls.
perfect. So I'll go ahead and enter an order extending the compliance date to July 29th, 2022. And if you need anything else, just communicate with Mr. Trask directly on that.
Okay.
Thank
Will
you for
do.
your time.
I appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right. That concludes the hearing on case number 2021.3355. I believe the last case I have on my agenda is case number 2015.09734 Sunset Cove with an affidavit of compliance.
Yes, this is an older case. The property was brought into compliance some time ago. Both of the owners are deceased. The daughter is trying to sell the property now, and we believe that the property is in compliance, and it's appropriate for you to accept the affidavit of compliance and enter an order of compliance. So that's what we're asking you to do.
That is fine. Is the daughter receiving mail at the 734 Sunset Cove, Madeira Beach, or is there an address I need to send her an order for so she can have it if she's trying to sell the property?
If you don't mind, I'm going to just look up on my phone, see
Sure.
if she has one in the email that she sent me, if you don't mind, and I can answer that question. All of the correspondence that Ms. Hennigan has sent me has been by email, and she only provides an email address.
I mean, I'll send it to her as a courtesy by email, and then if she wants it by another form, that's fine. Well, I'll tell you what, since it's probably sensitive, well, it's public record. Would you prefer to give it to me off the record or on the record?
It is a public record.
Okay.
It's CODIE0107 @gmail.com.
And what is her name?
Candace, Candace, Hennigan.
All right, I will go ahead and prepare an affidavit of compliance for this property. I will give the original to the city and email her a copy, so she'll have it if she needs it for some kind of closing.
Thank you.
All right, is there any additional, anything else before me today?
No, sir, that's it. Thank you.
All right, that concludes today's special magistrate hearing.
Okay, thanks.